Hello, our friends, Evolutionary Energy Arts family.
Hello there. Welcome back, everybody.
Please do subscribe if you are so inclined. We've been sitting right at like 20 away from going over 18,000, and this is exactly what the programming does. The AI programming will stop when you hit these mile markers, and they just will keep you stuck, and that's okay, but we'll eventually move forward, and we are moving forward, even if their lies and illusions show otherwise. And that's what this is. This is all lies and illusions in this world. And do subscribe to Evolutionary as well. As you see here, every little detail has been planned down to a T. Oh, absolutely.
I set up a foundation in Ukraine before Ukraine became independent of Russia. And the foundation has been functioning ever since. There is one person who was very deeply involved in Ukraine, and that's Biden. He had a lot more patience than I had in trying to convert Poroshenko into a democratic leader.
But the opportunity to generate a united Ukraine, getting it right is within your grasp, and we want to be your partner, your friend in the project. And we're ready to assist. We're also.
And you see all these things that go on behind the scenes. Again, we have to recognize that what we're fed is a steady diet and stream of complete BS. And there's so much more that goes on behind the scenes that, luckily now for many, there's a great awakening going on. It just needs to go faster.
It does. And we do have a head start. It's great that we are starting to wake up. And now we really need to sit with our children and explain things in detail so they can see through the illusions as they grow up.
Yeah, and of course, it's always under the guise, when you're in the U.S., when you're in the NATO countries, it's under the guise of democracy and capitalism and freedom and, go and chase after the American dream, go and chase after whatever, dream it is, because you can achieve anything in our system. But what is the system really? What really is the system that we have going on here? Oh, here we go. Here's, you can see the caption here, what this person thinks of these two.
Hey everyone, bonjour tout le monde. I'm in California today with Governor Newsom. We're signing an agreement to make sure we continue the deep partnership we've had on fighting climate change, on protecting our environment, in creating good green jobs, and moving forward in ways that really matter to people. C'est un grand plaisir de pouvoir travailler si proche avec la Californie sur les enjeux qui sont importants pour les Canadiens. Governor Newsom, talk about this partnership.
Well, désolé, je ne parle français. But you don't have to speak the same language to understand that we're all in this together. Divorce is not an option. And so we're here on the issue that extends, I think, a global consciousness, and that's the issue of climate change.
Yeah, climate change. Divorce is not an option. We're all in this together. Two actors. And we know, you guys have seen it a million times. These are part of the WEF Young Leaders. Here we see Liberal governor confesses to 105 million World Economic Forum digital ID contract. Liberal government has admitted in writing that they have an ongoing 105.3 million contract with the WEF to introduce digital identities for travel to Canada. The Conservative MP Leslyn Lewis published an inquiry of ministry she sent to Transport Minister Omar Alagra in June. Yeah, and so, the government finally admits that, yes, the WEF plan for digital ID, again, you will own nothing and you'll be happy, and really, they don't care if you're happy, it's just the you will own nothing part is the part that you have to understand here. And it's not the same for them. Yes, they want us eating bugs, and they're not going to change the way they eat. when you look at all these young leaders that are still being churned out, of course, there are many familiar faces, including Macron, Zuckerberg, and so many others. And of course, Newsom is part of this, as is Trudeau, as is Liz Truss, who just got elected and of course is having issues over there. And there's many still that haven't quite made the public scene, so to speak. There's Greta, you know what family she belongs to. Everything that we see is always given to us for our literal consumption. Take it in, get used to it, but all the lies are just simply, they're becoming overwhelming. And I was going to just actually jump to something at the end, like this right here. Satellite temperature data show almost all climate model forecasts have been wrong for the last 40 years. Again, we're finally starting to get the fact that all the facts are really just contrived. It's all a sales job. We could view it as we are all basically on the used car lot kicking tires, and everybody that we're encountering in the mainstream media and throughout other avenues of mainstream thinking, which some people can't understand, and we're going to get into this, they just can't seem to get through their head that it's all the mainstream media and theology and history that is all contrived to give us a certain worldview that they totally control and manipulate. They create the data. They create the scientists. They control them. They control the data. They control the narrative. Doesn't mean it's accurate. Not at all. No, it's just part of the bigger plan.
It is. And we have to keep in mind, too, for them, it's a survival thing. They are trying to keep themselves in a place where they can sustain. And to do that, they really need to take control. So one of the biggest things that they have done that really bothers me the most is when they start with children that are so young, and they start teaching them at a young age that this is the system, this is the right system, and they pour a lot of pride and they pour a lot of ego into their system, and that's how they keep people asleep. And then of course through diet and different antidotes through the medical system, people are unable to wake up. So it is a frustrating thing, but we have to continue on. We have to start working on that change. We have to keep waking up people regardless of the huge wall that appears to be in front of us, because again, it's an illusion.
Absolutely. So what we're seeing here is that, even the models that were showing the least amount of global warming are actually inaccurate. And I think it's a case where now this scam, because it is a scam, is becoming more and more evident. But we need to look a little bit deeper, because they have us so divided that there's many aspects to, say, those people whose thinking is on the right that will not allow them to see that some things that they still cherish and take as sacred are totally part of the system. When we think about Columbus Day, right? Columbus Day. What's special about Columbus Day? Really, I mean, why do we even celebrate Columbus Day? Do people even understand the real history of it? Well, you can't blame people for trying to understand the history of Columbus, because if you start Googling things, you'll find that the history is totally already being, it is. It's been whitewashed. It's being changed. There are so many articles out there that are fact-checking Columbus's atrocities, because, yes, there are sources that say he committed genocide. What's genocide? Well, that's when you plan on killing people, or you just decide, hey, I'm going to wipe out a total population. There was a tribe of Arawaks, 3 million perished, war, slavery, European diseases. And, slavery was a big part of Columbus's life. He was a slaver. Why are we celebrating a slaver? Why does a slaver get a day of honor and recognition? Now, as kids, we didn't question Columbus Day or so many things. What happened? I mean, as a kid in school, I remember one of the first memories is I pledge allegiance to the flag. It's the first thing you do is your programming and your indoctrination. This is what they do to us. So, Jack Posebic posted, God bless Christopher Columbus, and he's an idiot. I mean, he does uncover a lot of truths, I'll give you that. He's the senior editor at humanevents.com, veteran naval intelligence officer. But yet, he's so entrenched in the system. And he's on the right, and he's speaking out against the left. Gotta say, I feel like he understands the bigger picture. I think he understands that he is actually part of the system, even though he's doing his best, apparently, to call out the left, to call out people like Soros and Obama, to call out Biden for what's going on. Yet, at the same time, he's always, saying, get down on your hands and knees and pray to Yahweh Jehovah. So he's pushing that side of the narrative. We will see this with other top politicians who are on the right side. Now, it's pretty obvious what's going on the left side. We can see it. It's most definitely a Trojan horse operation in the planet. And, there are all these things going on. But by not taking a step back and seeing the bigger picture that the right's controlled too, and we could go again into the Skull and Bones, for instance, and see both Bush presidents were members of Skull and Bones. Their antecedent, Prescott Bush, who made a ton of money off the war, World War II. And again, it's so intertangled and intermingled. The right and the left are both complicit in this. It's the system. And I know most of you guys get it totally. 98.9, 99.1, somewhere in that range. Totally understand this. As long as you're going to take one side, they're going to manipulate you into attacking the other side. And of course, they want basically war here. And again, we must not allow ourselves to be maneuvered into a position when we're becoming part of the problem. But ignorance is not bliss, and this is a completely ignorant statement. And here we could go. There's 3 different sources here. There's actually a ton that we could tag, and you could also find a ton that are trying to debunk it from the official point of view. The atrocities attributed to Christopher Columbus. So, he is attributed to doing many, many different things. And now I've read all this before, the fact that, they did take slaves, send them back to Europe. Absolutely. And they did exterminate people. They were brutal to people. And they laughed at the naivete of the natives being peaceful. He even made a boast, just give me 50 guys. Just give me 50, armed Europeans, and we could conquer thousands, a nation of thousands of the indigenous people here, because they don't understand. They're so naive because they weren't part of this system. They were living in harmony with the earth itself. And sure, there was. People will say, oh, there was cannibalism and stuff. They always want to make up the biggest atrocities to cover other atrocities. Now, sure, there was warring amongst other indigenous tribes. That is something that happened, and there were atrocities that were committed. And some might even say, well, even the indigenous people took slaves. And there's never any justification for slavery. Only a slaver would try to find justification for slavery.
And really, truly, I remember being in school, and I wasn't very good in school, but I do remember the celebration, and I remember cutting out these ships and, making these pictures and it having be a whole big ta-da about Columbus. And we were learning from people who very innocently read the history books that our controllers had written for them. And that's something that we need to keep in mind, forgiving those that really thought that they were doing the best thing for us. But we're at a point now where the light is really shining. The truth is being turned on. And I don't see how people could continue to not look. It's like sometimes people think, well, if they don't look, maybe it didn't happen, but that's not true. That's not true. To fix a problem, we have to recognize that there is a problem. And to do that, sometimes you have to look at things, and sometimes they're ugly and sometimes they hurt. But how are we supposed to correct ourselves if we don't see the truth for what it is?
Absolutely. Now Cindy might be slightly familiar with some of this, but really not. She has not studied history like I have, and I asked her, I said, can you go in and look and read what you get about Columbus? What do you see when you look and scan? Some of you might be familiar with remote viewing. It's something not just the U.S., China, and Russia do, but other governments as well, and have done for many, many decades. There are people that are completely trained at the government level, and we actually have spoken to some, that have been trained by the government to do these things, and are even currently in the government. It's real. And we can also remote view things like going into the past and remote viewing people in many cases where they are right now. Even if they've left the 3D, we could still usually find them. That's the thing that's amazing, and many people might not understand. Just because somebody's no longer here in a 3D body, or at least in that 3D body that we know them by, because again, Christopher Columbus may have incarnated again, and I didn't see what Cindy got on that. But the fact is, we can go and look into everything we do. Every single little thing we've done has been seen by others and is recorded. So that's one of the things to remember. Nothing won't be uncovered. Everything will be known. And that's leading to a lot of gasps out there. Yep. But it's something that, again, hey, all we can do is from this point in our life forward, try to do better.
Right. Because when you know better, you do better. And it's really important, to understand things that way, so you know which way to set your sail. But when I did look at him from the time before he left for here, he was actually nervous. He was scared. He was feeling insecure. He wasn't sure about the mission, but he did know what the mission was. And at the point where he did reach the shores, he was really emboldened by his ability to sway these people. And like Mike said in the history books, he thought it was funny at how easily he could control them. He saw them as animals, to be used. So every little thing that he did that could create him to be in control, it emboldened him. And it emboldened him to a point where all of these really horrible things happened. And it's something that just unfolded, and you got to look back at the innocence and uncertainty of someone, and how does that happen? How do they become such a person, such a being with all of these things? But it's that emboldenedness that they can control people. So once they see that they can control, they do more. And this is how that unraveled. This is how that unfolded. And this is what happened. And so now we have all of these history lessons that are coming to the forefront. And no, I didn't study history. I really wasn't able to study Columbus. I just know the bare basics. Like, I have these memories of doing stuff when I was little, but as I got older and I started to understand that these abilities and these things that I'm picking up from people were different. I'm picking up the energy of them. I could start piecing things together on my own, and this is what we have, and we have to look at it.
as the dogs are always on lookout, and we're thankful for that. So yeah, looking into this, yes, this was, as this article says, a homicidal tyrant who initiated two of the greatest crimes in the history of the Western Hemisphere, the Atlantic slave trade and the American Indian genocide. Rehashing all his crimes would require a much longer article, and you could just look at some of the things: kidnapping a woman, giving her to a crew member. You see over here, publicly cut off Indians' ears to shock others into submission, kidnapped and enslaved more than 1,000 people on Hispaniola, forced Indians to go collect gold for him or else die. About 50,000 Indians committed mass suicide rather than comply with the Spanish. 56 years after the Columbus first voyage, only 500 out of 300,000 natives remained on Hispaniola, and he was also horrible to the Spanish under his rule. There's plenty of articles about that, and then there's articles trying to debunk it, because of course, yeah, they always want to rewrite the atrocities in a favorable light. But the fact is, again, this is human trafficking and slavery. This is also genocide. This is just pure evil. And the fact that, there's a day that celebrates this person is just pretty much insane when you think about it, when you really think about it. But again, it's the system that's currently in place now. This is the same system. So when we recognize that and look at all the news that we see going on in our media, it should kind of ring that nothing has really changed. Not really. There's things that are done on a very, very covert scale now, as opposed to out in the open. But has anything really changed? And when you do a search, and slavery condoned in the Bible, because there's many different verses. Slaves obey your masters. It's right there. It's right there. Even in the New Testament, slaves obey and it's also obey your human masters. Oh, that's an interesting little part right there. Slaves obey your human masters. And it's the same thing in the Quran, of course, as well. And here you'll have everybody and their uncle, of course, trying to say the Bible does not specifically condemn, but it doesn't condone either. No, God doesn't condone slavery, but it's all right there. It's all right there. And again, this is a distortion, because the creator of this universe doesn't condone slavery. This is all about individual souls blossoming. Again, this is a distortion of the controllers and the control systems. And yes, those beings are slavers. So when we go back and we look at the rest of the stuff that's happening out there today, we see a strike on Kiev interrupts the BBC Live report. So because of the destruction of the bridge, Russia sent some missiles and did missile strikes in Kiev. And again, innocent people suffering. Innocent people always suffering. And again, this is part of the system which has to go. As long as we keep buying one side or the other, saying, oh, well, it's not the fault of this side, it's not the fault of that side. Well, it's not the fault of the average people. The only way the average person is really at fault is through ignorance.
And it is. It's very, very disturbing, this amount of information that we are uncovering. Ultimately, what they need and what they want is just warm bodies. And until we can see these beings for what they are, really, it's going to be very difficult to change. If we just keep thinking, well, if so-and-so was in office, things would be different. No, it wouldn't. We have to really create our own system. And there was one other thing that I picked up as far as Columbus coming over here, and there is definitely an alien type of energy needing things to be done in the 3D realm to make them karmically acceptable in some way. And I couldn't really get my energy to wrap around that, but there is an alien element to that.
So Putin decries act of terrorism on Crimean Bridge, identifies Ukraine's Secret Service as culprits, and also saying, they did come out say that there's forces inside Russia that are involved with this as well. Yeah, of course. Again, the real power brokers have people in every single country on this world, on this planet. It's infiltrated and controlled at the greatest level. If we think that any government that we see is truly operating in a completely benevolent manner, then we are really under an illusion, because none of them are. They are all part of the system, and none of them care for us, really. I mean, they just care about us as if we are, again, a slave, an asset. North Korea says recent tests were tactical nuclear drills overseen by Kim, and also that they're building underwater nuclear weapons silos underwater. North Korea will be used, and they would be the perfect nation to use in a first strike. And of course, it would be a proxy of China and Russia. But again, the controllers control all these leaders that are doing all these things. None of these leaders come up with really anything of their own accord. They're all acting out their parts. They understand their roles in these, this great drama that's unfolding on planet Earth. It's only a conspiracy theory when it accuses the U.S. government. Well, really, it's only a conspiracy theory when it really gets to the core, and the power brokers that lie behind the scenes. And this is going into Nord Stream and everything going on. The UN is never going to save us. The WF is never going to save us. What they're doing right now is just basically, it's no different than what was done in the past. We have to recognize history is constantly repeating itself. Key Danish island hit by massive power outage after reported cable break, and there's more of that going on. Again, it doesn't mean that the soldiers that are carrying out the will of these puppet masters, who are themselves puppet mastered, don't think that they're, unfortunately, doing things for their nation. And this is, again, that divide and conquer. Divide and conquer. Keep them divided. Mass protests against NATO and EU hit Paris streets. The demonstrations were sparked by what protesters called economic disruption and energy and health restrictions. The people are getting tired, and there is a change. We can feel there is a change. These controllers are vastly outnumbered, and they have to operate in a manner. It's just like a lion, that say normally will knock off a hyena or two with impunity and just kind of laugh at them. But when there's a pack of 10, 12, 20 hyenas, that lion has to be a little bit cautious. And when they're outnumbered, 10,000 to 1, 100,000 to 1, maybe million to 1, they got to be very cautious, even with their technology. And really, one of the things that I don't think most people understand is they understand at the top levels that the real power structure is not on this planet, that there is a power structure off planet. And that's what gives them their guts and their bravado, is that they understand that there's beings with technology vastly superior backing them up, and that's what makes them act with such impunity and arrogance.
Mm-hmm. I mean, that's the part that's really disturbing, and that's why we need to understand our power, because they understand theirs. And one of the things we haven't really done is we haven't put our own energy to the test. And many of you know, whenever we're faced with challenges, we often come out much stronger than we are. I was having a talk with a family member last night, and really, I mean, the information that's coming through is we are powerful, we are strong, and we really don't quite understand how powerful we are until we put it to the test. So next step is action. I mean, Mike and I, we can be on here and we can awaken people. This is our job, and we are healers. We work on clients. We have a lot of other things that we need to do, but this is our part. This part is the part that we are good at, but other people are going to have to take on their part too.
Yeah, and do it in any way that is natural to you and feels right to you. It could just be sharing opinions, sharing thoughts, sharing videos, and maybe it's, making a stand in your own way and not contributing to the system that's in place. Massive errors by FBI, undercounted number of armed citizens thwarting active shootings. I remember how there was one instance where a lady, I think she was in West Virginia, stopped a mass shooting. And of course that was swept under the rug. Nobody said anything about it. Of course it would have been all over the place if she didn't do what she did. In a fifth density reality, we're not going to all be armed all the time. We're not going to be paranoid. No, I mean, it's a different world. It's a totally different world. There's just this underlying understanding that, helping each other, we're helping ourselves. And it's just a very, very different existence. It's really this system that lends itself to this dog-eat-dog world. Again, Charles Darwin, with his Darwinian form of evolution, has a survival of the fittest, and that truly is what the slave masters believe. Survival of the fittest. Everybody else, too bad, so sad, bye-bye.
Mm-hmm. In this information, it's not popular to get out there with the controllers because we definitely threaten them, because we do reach a lot of people, and it's a lot of people that can make a bigger change. This is the part of it that's not, it is quite scary, but we feel compelled. We really feel compelled at our heart's level, and everyone needs to find that part in themselves. Find your passion, find your little niche. Often it's probably going to be right where you're at, and awakening those people, because I think we are strategically placed in so many ways to make a difference right where we're at. We are that pebble in the pond.
And sometimes we got to be the pebble in the shoe.
Yes.
That basically is an irritant until it can no longer be tolerated, and something has to change, and that's what we have to do at this point in time. It's become a political arm of the White House. ATF gun store revocations hit a 16-year high. So you could see there's a lot of people losing their licenses, not getting approved for like concealed carries, etc., etc. And again, in the world to come, we won't need to carry a gun. We won't need to carry a weapon everywhere. We are heading into a very, very dangerous time. Many people can see this. And this is, again, a time that's going to be loaded with chaos and loaded with people that are going to be searching out and seeking opportunity for themselves. Think about Christopher Columbus on a grand scale all over the place. All those people that will take advantage of chaos, they're going to find that, because chaos is something that's being cultivated on this planet right now. So, of course, they also want to set things up for that Trojan horse that is already well underway here in the U.S. and in NATO in general. As we know, these open borders is something in the world to come that will be a reality. There's not going to be any borders in the world to come, but the system has created borders in order to keep us divided. And then, of course, they want their new world order, which is nothing but a continuation of the existing order, except for the fact that it's going to be right in your face, like back to the past, so to speak, where there's not another word you could call it, but just it is a form of slavery. And of course, there is economic slavery. It's a reality. California accuses Valero of oil price gouging. But again, California is buying it at the same cost as other states So, what's really the blame here? Who's really gouging? And again, it shouldn't be hard to figure this out. We have all these depictions which show humans, and we've shown this so many times in so many videos. When you see these beings that are thought to be gods that are, in some cases almost twice the height of typical humans, but they look very humanoid, and all these people tied by the neck, hands tied behind their back, and you got somebody riding around in the sky above them. Hello. This is the creators of this system. And it should make us obviously think about the slave trade, which Columbus was a big part of. Why are we celebrating this individual? Well, it's slave traders celebrating another one of their own. And it's slave traders that celebrating somebody that opened up a huge market. This is an atrocity. And this is an atrocity to the creator. The real creator doesn't condone any form of slavery. And this whole reality is all about exploration for the soul so we can bloom. There's never a case. There's never a time. There's never a place for slavery. As you see, marks being given. Oh, the mark of the beast. The mark of the beast was in effect here with slavery. Everybody got branded. They brand cattle. They brand sheep. They branded people for thousands of years. Wars of rumors and wars. There's never been a time when there hasn't been war in the last 6,000 years. And all sorts of atrocities by these people that are celebrated to this day. This is an insane system. The leadership of this world is insane, criminally insane. This should never have happened. This should never be. And taking advantage of humans just basically for riches, wealth, power, ego, and greed is totally disgusting. And it's a reality. It's a reality, and it's still ongoing in the shadows. And it's still ongoing even on this planet with people going off planet as slaves. It's all been right here in front of us the whole time.
Mm-hmm. And it's that light of information we have to thank for bringing this to our attention. This is something that's inevitable. This change is expected and it's normal, but that doesn't mean it's not painful. It's very painful to sit and look at how people have been. And I think that was one of the hardest things I had to learn during this awakening, that yes, people really are this way. They really did do that to other people under the guise of a different type of entity. So all of this is a really jagged pill to swallow at first, but I recommend you sit with it and ask yourself, give yourself the benefit of the doubt. Well, could it happen? Is it possible? And if so, why? And just follow the money, follow the control, follow the money, and see.
Absolutely, guys. Again, we want to thank everybody that's supporting us over on Patreon. There's different tiers there from $1 a month, $5, $10 a month on up. And we do welcome you to come and join us over there at that part of the family, or over on Ko-Fi, where you could do a one-time donation or monthly donations in the form of coffees, which I'm sipping on some black coffee right now. Mm-hmm. And probably will be doing so until 4 or 5 p.m. Yes. As always, may you be blessed by the true creator of this universe. Much love. Keep spreading your light. Namaste.
Namaste.